The first thing anyone noticed about the mechanic was the way he listened, not to people, to engines. While the rest of the garage buzzed with noise, air compressors hissing, metal clanging, radios crackling with country music, Daniel Reeves would lean slightly toward the open hood of a car and close his eyes. Then he'd listen. A soft rattle meant a loose timing chain. A sharp tick meant worn lifters. A deep, uneven hum meant something worse. People joked that he could hear things engines didn't even know they were saying yet. But Daniel never joked back. He simply wiped his hands on an oil-stained rag, fixed the problem, and moved to the next car. For 15 years, he worked at Whitaker Automotive in the middle of a busy industrial district outside Chicago. Customers trusted him more than anyone else in the building. If Daniel said a repair could wait, they believed him. If he said it couldn't, they opened their wallets without question, because Daniel Reeves never lied. And in an industry where honesty was sometimes rare, that mattered. But honesty doesn't always impress corporate executives, especially the new ones. On a gray Tuesday morning, the atmosphere in the garage changed. Black SUVs rolled into the parking lot like a quiet storm. Men in suits stepped out, followed by a woman whose heels clicked sharply against the pavement. Olivia Whitaker, 38 years old, Harvard MBA, recently appointed CEO of Whitaker Automotive Group after her father's sudden retirement. She had spent the last month visiting company locations across the country, cutting costs, tightening operations, and removing what she called inefficiencies. The mechanic simply called it layoffs. The moment Olivia walked through the garage doors, the conversation stopped. Her eyes scanned everything: tools, work bays, employees, like she was calculating numbers only she could see. Daniel didn't notice her at first. He was crouched beside a dusty pickup truck, carefully tightening a bolt. A young assistant hurried over. "Daniel," he whispered urgently. "The CEO's here." Daniel glanced up briefly, nodded once, and returned to the bolt. Engines first, everything else later. Unfortunately, Olivia Whitaker didn't see it that way. She stopped beside him. "Are you Daniel Reeves?" He stood slowly, wiping grease from his hands. "Yes, ma'am." Olivia held a tablet in one hand. Her expression was sharp, professional, distant. "You've been with the company 15 years. "That's right." She tapped the screen. "And yet your productivity numbers are among the lowest in this location." Several mechanics nearby pretended to keep working, but their ears turned toward the conversation. Daniel didn't argue. He simply said, "I take my time to do things right." Olivia's eyebrow lifted slightly. "In business," she said calmly, "time is money." Daniel looked around the garage, the old truck he'd been fixing, the customers waiting in the lobby, the tools he'd used for over a decade. Then he replied quietly, "So is trust." For a brief moment, the room went still. Olivia studied him like a puzzle she wasn't interested in solving. "I'm afraid your approach doesn't align with the direction of this company moving forward." She tapped the tablet once more. "Daniel Reeves, your position is being terminated effective immediately." A ripple of shock moved through the garage. 15 years, gone in 10 seconds. Daniel's assistant opened his mouth to protest, but Daniel gently shook his head. He didn't beg, didn't argue, didn't plead. He simply nodded once. "Understood." Olivia turned and walked away, already speaking to another manager about restructuring schedules. To her, it was just another decision, another number removed from a spreadsheet. But to the mechanics watching, it felt like something unfair had just happened. Daniel quietly placed his tools into a worn metal toolbox. One wrench, one socket set, one screwdriver with a cracked red handle he'd owned since his first day. His assistant looked devastated. "This place won't run the same without you." Daniel smiled faintly. "Places change," he said. "People move on." He carried the toolbox out to the parking lot and placed it in the bed of his old truck. The sky above Chicago hung low with thick clouds. For a long moment, Daniel simply stood there. Then something strange happened. At first, it sounded distant, a faint thumping in the air. Whoop, whoop, whoop! The mechanics inside the garage heard it, too. Someone stepped outside. Then another. Heads tilted upward, because the sound was getting louder. Much louder. Within seconds, a massive Navy helicopter appeared over the industrial district, cutting through the clouds like something out of a movie. People stared in disbelief as the aircraft descended toward the empty lot beside the garage. Dust and loose paper flew everywhere as the helicopter landed. Engines roared. Rotors thundered. And standing beside his old truck, Daniel Reeves sighed quietly. Because he knew exactly why they were here. The helicopter door slid open. 2 uniformed officers stepped out first, scanning the area. Then a tall commander followed. He walked directly toward Daniel. Every mechanic from the garage had now gathered outside, including Olivia Whitaker. She looked stunned. "What is going on?" she asked. No one answered. The commander stopped in front of Daniel and snapped into a sharp salute. His voice rang out over the roaring rotors. "Commander Michael Reeves, United States Navy Special Operations." The entire parking lot froze. Olivia blinked. "Commander, what?" The officer lowered his salute and smiled warmly. "We've been trying to reach you for 3 days, sir." Daniel rubbed the back of his neck. "My phone broke." Gasps spread through the crowd. Olivia looked like the ground had shifted beneath her feet. "Your Navy?" Daniel shrugged lightly. "Reserve." The commander turned to the onlookers. "For the record," he said proudly, "this man is one of the most decorated rescue pilots in naval aviation." The mechanics stared at Daniel like they were seeing him for the first time. "He flew over 40 combat rescue missions," the commander continued. "Pulled soldiers out of situations most pilots wouldn't even enter." Someone whispered, "You're kidding!" But the commander wasn't finished. 3 weeks ago," he added, "Commander Reeves voluntarily flew into a hurricane rescue operation in the Gulf." Now the entire lot was silent. "While off duty," the commander said firmly. "He personally rescued 12 civilians trapped on a sinking fishing vessel." Olivia's face drained of color. Daniel shifted awkwardly. "They needed help," he muttered. The commander handed him a sealed envelope. "Washington wants to award you the Distinguished Flying Cross this Friday." The mechanics erupted in stunned murmurs. Olivia Whitaker stood frozen. The man she had fired for being inefficient was a national hero. Daniel glanced at the helicopter. "You flew all the way here for that?" The commander smiled. "And because we have another mission that needs the best rescue pilot we've got." Daniel looked back at the garage. 15 years. Then he shrugged. "Well," he said quietly, "good timing, I guess." He climbed into the helicopter. Before the door closed, the commander turned once more toward the crowd. "By the way," he added calmly, "Commander Reeves refused promotion 3 times. "Why?" someone asked. The commander pointed toward the garage. "He said fixing cars helped people who couldn't afford bigger problems." The helicopter lifted off moments later, vanishing into the clouds. Dust settled slowly across the parking lot. No one spoke, especially not Olivia Whitaker, because in one careless decision, she had fired the most honorable man in the entire company, and she hadn't even known his real name.